So, Lakou Mizik is a band out of Port-au-Prince. And when you first reached out to me, we were looking at a bunch of different bands, and you said, I like them. They're really great. They're fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? Okay, great.
Nobody struck me like Lakou Mizik did. And one of the things that has really happened as we have moved forward as part of progress is that we are really, truly part of a global company. We are not just talking to people in the US and like occasionally to customers other places. Now it is really a global company. We have offices, I can't even come up with the list, honestly, but we're everywhere. And one of the things I really wanted to make sure we did with the music was bring in something that wasn't status quo for Chef. And Lakou Mizik was the perfect amount of different and edgy and honestly delightful. Like if you like live music, they are fantastic. To get me moving on my couch, watching a pre-recorded thing, their presence carried so well. Even watching the stuff that I was finding online, it's like these are the people we have to have.
We've all been going, the pandemic, we're still here, obviously. Bands aren't touring. They're not selling CDs, records per se. So there's an economic question here. And then there's also the human experience of like, what do we do here?
But we still don't know. They have to be vaccinated or show proof of, negative test for COVID. But if they are vaccinated, which vaccine did they get? And will that vaccine be accepted by the U.S. authorities? So there's that issue which remains. And then also just the backlog for so many people applying to get their bands in. Yeah. There's a backlog for that. And so it could take 3-4 months just for the embassy side of things. I think what you're doing here, Derek, is really interesting to me. I was really interested that you wanted to intersperse the questions in there and have the band address what was going on for them in Haiti. I think that this kind of presentation affords an incredible opportunity both for the bands to talk about their cultures, but also for these audiences to learn something about the cultures in which the bands are coming from.
I do think there's a balance in a live show. People do get a lot out of knowing the subject matter of the songs, generally, at least with a band that's sort of, I guess, as Lakou is a roots band that often sings about either politics or, engaged discussions about Haiti or the history of Haiti or celebrating Haitian culture. And but at the same time, you want to keep the energy up. If you ask people to talk about all the beautiful things in Haiti right now, they're not going to be able to. Last year, maybe the year before, my wife, for example, is a band member, and she doesn't want to do interviews right now because she doesn't want to be asked to say positive things when she's not feeling that way, But even if you're talking about the reality and the difficult stuff, when you're doing it, when you're connecting, when it's not on the news, it connects you in a different way. It connects you in an empathetic way, or in and not only that, but when you do that and then connect it with an awesome show, you get to see Haitians not as the subjects of a news piece, but as talented, powerful, important people. For example, Lakou Mizik has a song about the way that international aid organizations and also Haitian authorities take advantage of money that flows into a country after a disaster. And they've got a song that speaks to that. they happen to, sadly, tragically, been in the middle of a natural disaster where the exact same thing was happening.
Pendant Covid ça, nous étions obligés tout le monde mais nous avons essayé de créer l'autre activité pour nous qui nous étions plus ou moins kembe parce que on a petit, une famille, et tout ça égal, c'est musique nous fait c'est ça, c'est à partir de ça que nous vont retomber égal et nous étions obligés quand même de créer l'autre activité et mais et nous gain à cause de réseaux sociaux, OK, des technologies alors et si nous voulons nous t'ai essayé quand même faire quelques live comme ça et gain pile monde en Europe yo te mandé nous et live et Canada, États-Unis de l'autre côté ça yo égal et nous t'ai essayé quand même font kembe pour nous qui gens ça mais après ça un pile problème tremblement de terre vinn tomber et problème nous vinn empirer plus grave et politique président et politiciens qui parlent mes peuple et tout ça c'est un peu le problème et actuellement Haïti n'a rencontré avec un phénomène gang kidnapping tout ça égal et qui vraiment des bagages qui dérangent pas bon pour pays égal moi pense que bon de toute façon nous même la musique nous là n'a porté énergie et message positif là et n'a continuer vendre culture ça que nous gagnons qui c'est pas nous et qui porte guérison pour le monde. Aïe bobo la kalakaye. Aïe bobo toi baguette toi legete.
So when we started talking about Chef Conf this year, there's always that question, do we charge for tickets, do we not? What we decided to do was ask for donations. And so if you registered, you could make a donation and we were going to donate all of that to something. And then as we brought on Lakou Mizik, we were like, well, like Haiti's getting beat up right now. And you suggested the Partners in Health folks and looking into them. Honestly, so there's a rating system on a website called Charity Navigator, I think is what it's called. And Partners in Health has a higher score than I've ever seen with anyone because it was so impactful for Lakou Mizik and it was so in line with what Chef historically, or the Chef community likes to do, which is support people who are in need. And Partners in Health is doing such a great job that we were able to talk them into not just donating the money that people had submitted, but throwing their own money behind it. So Progress, we ended up coming up with $20,000 to send to them, and that's more than I ever could have imagined coming into this.
It's like, how do you create that community feeling on the stage with the band, which the community in this case would be the audience that they're not seeing. So, but if you can think about it, if you can frame it in the context, okay, this is a little bit different way of connecting with community, but we also have more leeway and more freedom to integrate different elements to really give them a sense of what our community feels like to us.
Having Lakou Mizik allowed us to connect to people that in a completely different way that had never felt represented or felt heard or felt seen at our event. And it was, it's a benefit that you cannot put a dollar amount on. It's a benefit you can't put, there's no KPI you can track around this. By hosting a non-traditional band, like it's not the exact same thing that every other conference has. And no, Lakou Mizik's name didn't pull people in, but even internally we have a music channel and folks are still listening to it. Like they're still engaging there and still liking it, and it hasn't had an impact in their lives. And that's a thing you can't put a dollar amount on. That's a thing that you have to put yourself out there in order to find.